Hey everybody, Key Lime here, and 4.4 is finally here. So I figured I'd run through some of the cool stuff. I'll start with the cool stuff, like the actual cool stuff. There's a lot of minor things in here, but there's actually some pretty significant ones. So most notably, probably the biggest change is this adventure board. So previously, if you recall, there's these snot stones, as they're affectionately called, these things. So this is ultimately going to get replaced with the adventure board, and what is also being replaced is the daily tasks that you used to have. So for the daily tasks, if you recall, it would tell you to like make a team of 3 drifting sands troops or 3 humans, or just kill 50 people. That's how things used to be done. Now what actually happens is you get 2 different kinds of tasks. You get your daily tasks, and then you get an overarching task. So it feels pretty similar to what they were going for before. What's pretty cool though is that these daily adventures are kind of split into these categories. So every single day you'll get a new thing, and every single day there's a chance that you can get some really cool stuff. So in this legendary gem task, for instance, I was able to get, I think it was like 5, 10, 20, 40 gems. So it was like roughly 60, 70 gems or something like that just from doing this. So that was pretty sick. This was very minor. This was like, I think 1, 2, 4, 6, something like that. So pretty minor, about like 10 gems. But still, all you have to do when you get into this daily adventure board is you'll click on this thing, and then it'll show you just complete a very easy fight, a slightly harder fight, a slightly harder fight, and a slightly harder fight. It starts out feeling like, like an explorer, and then it gets to like a semi-hard explorer. Like, if you're very, very late in the game, none of these tasks will be hard in any capacity. This legendary task felt about as hard as like a normal dungeon. So if you're used to doing your dungeons, it's about that hard, at least at legendary. I haven't seen if there's any mythic tasks. I assume there are. But yeah, all you have to do for your adventure board, jump in here. You'll have an overarching troop, which is just, for me at least this time around, was kill 100 troops. And I got that. And then I did each one of these things, and I picked up some rewards for that. So what's nice about this is that you no longer have to like put together these weird hacky teams. You can just kind of easily jump in here and get some daily tasks done. This was actually really, really nice. I like this change a lot. Obviously, you could potentially get a lot of really good rewards out of the Snotstone stuff. Like some of these tasks, it can be like 100 gems or 150 gems if it's like the more complicated ones. But I got 75 gems just from this one. And that was just one day. So there's going to be 7 days worth of these things every week. The odds are that you'll probably end up getting about the same or potentially more, depending on how your rolls are for your adventures. So this is actually pretty nice. I really like this. I will actually do these every day now versus the daily tasks I basically ignored. So that's very, very cool. Other things that they put in, so now there's some interesting stuff. So when you go into manage a team, you'll see that there's all these other options now. So before this used to just say rename team, now you get all these other things. So you can share your team with other people. So if I shared this into guild chat, for instance, what that ends up looking like is this. So you'll just see this big thing that says, here's all the stuff that I'm doing. It's a Dragon Guard class. It's using these troops. It's using that banner. I have these talents selected. And if I wanted to use this team, I click it and it makes it copied. Then I jump out, jump into here, and then I could just go to manage team and paste the team. So it's going to tell me this is exactly the team it's going to paste. It's going to be this class. It's going to be these troops with this banner, those talents. And it creates this unique code. So what's actually really nice is that I can just go ahead and paste the team, and then I have the exact same team. But what's really cool is that unique code that's referenced in here. This is something that you can paste into Discord, put it on YouTube, you can put it on Twitter. Anyone that pastes this code is going to be able to create this team, so you don't even have to be in game to actually do this. That is actually really cool. So whenever I create videos in the future, if I'm showing a bunch of teams that I think you guys would potentially like to use, I can just include a code and you guys will be able to actually just use that team straight up. So that's actually really, really, really nice. The one downside to this is that if people start creating really crappy teams, like the Life and Death team, for instance, someone's going to paste it on the forums and then magically everyone can have it right away. They don't have to, make it. Not that that barrier to entry was too high before, but now it's just going to be that much easier to pick up really nice teams, pick up really nice defenses, So this is actually a really cool feature. Within Guild, I can tell we're going to be using this a lot. So that's a really nice welcome addition. The other thing is this weird suggest a team thing. So let me not mess up one of my actual teams. But if you go into here and you click suggest a team, what it's going to try and do is actually create a team for you. So I found that these teams are pretty bad across the board. Like, I would never use any of these. What Infinity Plus 2 is saying is that basically if you have no idea how to team build, you can press suggest a team and these will at least be sufficient in some capacity. Like, just glancing at them, they all seem like they're kind of okay but kind of not. Generally these will all be pretty bad, but if you have literally no idea what you're doing or you just feel like messing around, you could use these. Where it might be a little more useful is that it will actually suggest teams based on troops that you pick. So if you jump into here and I'm sorting by base rarity and I say, I want a team with Jotner in it, suggest me a team with Jotner. So then it's going to try and put together teams that work with Jotner. Just looking at these, again, they're all pretty bad, but I'd imagine if I was putting together things like, let's just say I want to put a Mountain Crusher in there and a Jotner, and then I go suggest team. Now it's going to try and put Mountain Crusher and Jotner on the same team. And again, if I go into troops and I say, okay, well, I want Hyndla on that same team, what do you got for me now? Apparently double Hyndla is the new meta. Infinity Plus 2's lost their minds. Yeah, so apparently the best team you can possibly make is a Jotner at your first slot, a Mountain Crusher, and 2 Hyndlas. I'll make sure to paste that code for you guys to take because we've unlocked the key to success here. So overall, it's interesting. Like, I'll click it sometimes when I'm bored just to see what's going on, but for the most part, suggest a team is probably for folks that are a lot newer. What else they've added into the game is actually this notion of roles. So what roles are, to me, it's kind of like a shorthand for existing stuff. So if I go into here and say, if you scroll down a little bit, so the somewhat annoying thing is that they've put order up here now, so I'm constantly clicking down here by default. So your like base rarity sort is now up at the top. But if you go into these troop roles, they have these different definitions. So what they are trying to make this say is that assassin, for instance, are people that do like really strong single target attacks. A defender is someone who's generally more like skull damage resistant that you can put at the front slot of your team. Someone that's a generator is generally focused on making mana in some capacity. Mage is somebody that is doing large amounts of area of effect damage is what they're saying. A striker is somebody that's a heavy damage dealer but mostly single target. So the distinction between striker and assassin, I think assassin is meant to be like a super heavy hit, whereas a striker is meant to be like a very solid hit, if that makes sense. It's not totally obvious to me what they want. They imply that assassin's meant to be like a one-shot kill, but someone like Gargantuar's in there, for instance, so it's like I don't understand what they're doing with that. Support is what you would expect, so it's meant to be support type troops, so it's more like buff-oriented type troops. Warlock is going to be like the opposite of a support, so this is a debuff type troop. A War Master is somebody that's going to be like a summoner of some kind or a skull creator of some kind. So like orcs will probably mostly be like let's just look. Yeah, skull converter, skull converter, skull converter, summoner, summoner, skull converter, orc stuff. Yeah, so summoners and skull converters. That's a very weird. It's a very weird troop role. I don't know why you would ever want that. And then warrior is meant to be someone who's like pretty resilient, someone like this is kind of like an all-around type person. So just looking at people that they consider to be warriors, for instance, would be somehow like Jotner, Tino, War. So these roles are kind of weird. Admittedly, I don't know what I would use these for. Infinity Plus 2 has said that like this is more for newbie type players. The one thing I would say is that if you're extremely uncomfortable making teams, the one role that I think could help you is generator. So if you look at the generator folks, and I'm going to again sort by base rarity here, these folks are all kind of focused around getting you mana in some capacity. So you'll see that they either make gems, explode gems, destroy gems, that kind of stuff. So I mean, This list isn't atrocious. Like, if you have no idea what's going on with your team and you've listened to me say you need more mana generation in your lineup, but you have no idea what to sort for, you could potentially use this. But again, if you're watching my videos, I hope you know, or I've at least taught you by now, that you'd want to sort by converting gems, creating gems, or exploding gems. That's going to be your generator type people. So again, the roles are like one per troop, so I don't even really agree with what most of these roles actually are assigned. So don't spend too much time on this. I've already spent enough time talking about it, actually. So, that's kind of interesting and new. But then probably the other super cool thing here is actually we get some rarity here. So we get to understand what the probability of all this stuff is. So if you click on a specific chest and then you click on this question mark, it'll actually tell you what the actual odds are of you getting the things that you want. You're more than likely most interested in what the mythic and legendary rates are. So if we actually look at these values on the board here, what we end up seeing is that VIP keys, it's a 1%, 1% mythic chance with a 14% legend chance. So that's like 50 chests you would want to open in the VIP area to have about a 50% chance of getting a mythic. So obviously this has the best chances. We've kind of always known that, but it's nice to see a more specific number. With event keys, these are kind of like your next best. So your mythic chance in here is 0.11. So you'd have to open about 450 event chests to have about a 50% chance of getting a mythic. So this is pretty solid. If you're saving event keys, now you have a general sense that like 900 is a safe number, but about 450 is like a 50-50. And of course, probability doesn't work 100% that way. So just because you open 900 event chests doesn't mean you're going to get a mythic. But rough probability, that's what's going on there. Gem keys, this is like 0.1% for a mythic, so about 500 chests you'd have to open to get that 50% chance. Glory keys, we're looking at about 0.01%, so you'd have to open up 5,000 of these to get about a 50% chance, so that's pretty rough. And then for guild keys, when you're looking at level 6, what this one's actually doing is you would need, it's again that 0.11% chance, so it's about tied with the event chests. It's a little better for legendaries for some reason, but for mythics, again, you're looking at about 450 chests, which equates to like 9,000 seals. So if you have 9,000 seals saved, you'll have about a 50-50 of grabbing a mythic out of this. So it's pretty nice that they've actually added this into the game. Before, we were able to use Terran's World and look up probabilities, and these aren't dramatically off from what I remember calculating before. I think Terran's World had this at about 721 event keys was a 50-50. Now we know it's actually closer to 450, so this is actually slightly better odds than I think at least Terran's World was calculating, if I was using it correctly. But it's nice, again, that we get to see like very specifically what's going on now, so that's pretty nice. The other things that they've actually added into the game are unfortunately things that I can't directly show you because I don't have them up, but we can hack it. So let's blow up this thing to regular size. So when you jump into the game and you collect your daily rewards, you're probably used to seeing like a bunch of stuff just thrown at you. Now it's kind of summarizing it all in a single view, so that's pretty cool. It'll tell you what your 7-day login is, what your like daily calendar login is, your honor, just for coming back into the game, if you're getting VIP rewards, if you're getting guild seals for logging in, that's usually like 19, any renown ingots that you might be grabbing, just glory for logging in. It kind of does it all in one view, so that's pretty solid. Nothing too dramatic, but it's a minor quality of life improvement, so that's kind of fun. They have this flash calendar thing, so what this is meant to be is that sometime, I think they're saying next week is about when this is supposed to show up. But you know how you're getting those flash offers all the time? You jump in here and you see this flash offer thing. If you want to represent Canada, you're totally welcome to buy this. But apparently this is going to look more like a calendar, or there'll be an option somewhere to click into a calendar, and then it'll let you know what offers are going to be available at different points in the week. They've said that not all of these offers are going to actually cost money. So they say that you could potentially grab them for free, or they might have a gem cost. So, keep your eyes in there. I imagine you might be able to find some pretty interesting stuff. I believe they said that the weapons, when those eventually start showing up, will probably be in these calendars as well. So something else to keep in mind. So that is new, what came in here. As far as balance changes go, there's really nothing to talk about. Like if we look at these real quick, I've actually opened up in game all of these troops to see if they made any kind of dramatic difference, and they basically didn't. Most notably this one, so Abnesia? Sure. I don't have her or use her, but she's pretty trash. But her last trait now is giving 2 attack and life to all demons at the start of your turn. I mean, this isn't like the worst thing on the planet, but I mean, as we all know, Abyssinia, I think this is just going to be an hour-long video of me not pronouncing this name correctly. She's not that good regardless. Again, she's exploding the board, she's summoning an Infernal King, so not worth using kind of regardless. This trait's not going to make her magically usable, so not that cool. For folks like in the earlier game, a new Scepter now being able to target blue gems, that's actually pretty cool. I remember when I was using a new Scepter when I first started out, it would always piss me off that I couldn't just grab all the blues on the board. It would fill the Scepter back up since it's only 9 mana of blue to fill it, so you can potentially just like loop blue forever. That's cooler. I mean, that makes that weapon a little more interesting, but again, it's more of like an early game type weapon, maybe a mid-game type weapon. Nothing really here. Death is slightly more useful. His boost ratio here is 2-to-1 now, so this was boosted by his life. So since he's doing scatter damage, it's kind of still not going to be overly effective. I don't think this is going to magically bring Death back into the meta, but it does make him slightly better. This is probably like the actual biggest buff that was done, and it's really nothing all that special. And again, none of these really did anything all that crazy. So as far as balance changes go, there's nothing really all that exciting to chat about. And the last thing that I can't demo in any capacity is actually this notion of epic fights. So what they're trying to say here is that when you're doing like a raid boss, a Tower of Doom, an invasion, what you can do is you can actually spend multiple sigils to kind of give yourself a boost. So what they're saying here is that if you're doing your normal one, it's just a normal sigil. But if you want a 50% skill bonus, then you can spend an extra sigil. If you want a 100% skill bonus, you can spend 2 extra sigils. And if you want to have a 200% skill bonus, you could spend 4 sigils. So for late game players, what this means is that when you get to the really far end of things, and you really are having trouble, like you could potentially start like using these to give yourself that little bit of an edge. Like if you know if you're fighting like a really crap lineup in a Tower of Doom type situation, instead of like just trying to waste a scroll, you could potentially use a mythic battle instead. This is really expensive, however. Like 200% skills is like kind of cool, like that's a lot, but it's also like, you know, 5 fights worth of sigils in like a moment, so that's kind of nuts. What this is really geared towards is like the early game players. So if you're joining a guild and that guild has a lot of really high level players and you feel like you're a little bit inadequate or you want to contribute more than you're able to, you're hitting a wall a lot earlier than everybody else, you can potentially use these to give your lineup like a much more fighting chance. So like if your kingdom levels aren't that high, you don't have a ton of extra stat bonuses, you can spend these extra sigils to do that. The downside, of course, is that sigils cost gems, so if you're buying the tiers during an event, you're going to be spending more gems to try and keep up with everybody else in the guild. But this will at least allow you to make progress, whereas before you would have been stopped a lot sooner. So I kind of view this as like a half gift, half like, money hat kind of thing. Like this is obviously a way to milk people for more gems to like, burn sigils more often. This can take advantage of like earlier level players. I don't love this, but I mean, it's a cool option. Basically just practice some willpower, practice some self-control. If you're running into trouble, just know that this is like a bad deal per se. But if you really have no other way of contributing to the guild and you feel like you really want to give it an extra boost, these options being here is kind of cool. It doesn't appear to apply to faction events, so again, I think it's just going to be the invasion, the raid boss, and the Tower of Doom events. Certainly not for guild wars or anything like that. Doesn't apply to delves, doesn't apply to faction events as far as we can tell. So that's there as well. But that is everything that's new in 4.4. Overall, I think the biggest changes are really all that troop stuff, like the ability to copy and paste teams in the adventure board. Like that's going to be a really big thing. So make sure you grab your update, jump into the adventure board. This is pretty cool. And I'm sure if you check out the boards now, you jump on Reddit, I'm going to be doing it in my videos. I'm sure the other YouTube creators will be doing it in theirs. you'll be able to do that lineup copying and pasting thing that we talked about before. So that's also really cool. But yeah, that's the 4.4 update. It is out now on all platforms, minus Switch, of course. But that is everything I think you need to know about the 4.4 patch. So thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will talk to you later. Bye.